A while ago, I taught this class on atheism, or a response to atheism. But the reason why I did, well, there's several reasons, but one of the reasons was I was talking to a friend of mine who I really respect. She's just brilliant, she's smart. And I thought she said that Richard Dawkins, do you know who Richard Dawkins is? Okay. He's kind of the leading, yeah, I don't like him either. He's kind of the leading atheist, actually in the world. He's wrote a lot of books. God is not great, blah, blah, blah. And I decided, well, if my friend said he's really smart, I should be open for a challenge. So I read the book, hated it, drove me up a wall because he says, if you're a scientist, you must be an atheist because a scientist only works by evidence. Now, that's kind of interesting because the same time that he published his book, 3 other scientists from England published books, 2 astrophysicists and 1 biologist, that science led them to believe in God. And Richard Dawkins, he's a professor, but he's never really discovered anything. The other 3 scientists actually made discoveries. And in his book, he keeps saying that as a scientist, he only works by evidence. Keeps saying only evidence, except if he says only real scientists are atheists, what do you do with all the other ones who are scientists and say science brought them to believe in God? And he also says that Albert Einstein was an atheist, which I did not know. In fact, if you Google it, Albert Einstein called people, he says, I am not an atheist. I don't know why these dogs keep saying I'm an atheist. I don't know how much clearer evidence you could get to that. So Richard Dawkins in this book, it's kind of awful because he says he believes in evidence and then doesn't ever produce any, but just all these wild conclusions. So the point being is, I read it, I was furious, and I said to my friend, why the heck, because I never cuss, why the heck would you think he's brilliant? He's an idiot. And my friend said, oh, Richard Dawkins, he's an idiot. I didn't say Dawkins, and then she said something else, and I said, well, okay, I misheard that. But I thought it was really interesting. And I do think it's interesting for this reason, is that you have these 3 other scientists who said science brought them to believe in God. They were atheists before. And I only mention this because today is the Feast of Epiphany. And on the Feast of Epiphany, we believe that, this is a strange notion, God sends a star not just to the Magi, to everyone. And if you follow that passion, that star, it will lead you back to God. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are. And not only science does that, but we believe anything can, depending on your passions. Dostoevsky, I always mispronounce his name. Do you know who that is? Okay, he's a famous writer. He said, beauty will save the world. I always liked that. But for him, he thought poetry and literature leads people to God. Von Balthasar, this great theologian, he said the same thing, that poetry and literature will lead you to God. Well, so yeah, for the poet, it would. Or just one more example. And I absolutely love her. Dorothy Day, she's kind of the saint. She was a Mother Teresa of the United States. And she was an atheist. She was this bohemian writer in New York, and she fell in love with this guy and kind of married this guy who, it was an awful marriage because every time he got upset, he would simply leave for a couple days. He, to me, horrible pouter. And she got pregnant, and he demanded that she have an abortion. But she said no. So he left her. And she had the baby, and she tells a story that she said, when I held my daughter in my arms, she said, I felt such joy that I knew I was wrong. I felt such love that I knew there had to be a God. And in her biography, The Long Loneliness, she said, I loved my husband. I loved him with all my heart. Even this broken marriage, she said, it pointed her to a greater love. And when she had her child, it pointed her once again to a greater love. And she loved being a grandmother. And she said, even that pointed me to the source of all love, God. And so for her, it wasn't science or poetry. It was actually love that led her to really move from atheism to really this incredible saint. And she said, starting with her daughter was her star. And so my point being, whether it could be anything, science, poetry, love, God will send you a star that in the end, you'll end up before the presence of Christ. And on Epiphany, we celebrate the Magi, these foreigners. They make it to the presence of Christ. Because the Magi, and here's just a little technical, the word Magi, they're not really kings, they're not wise men, they're Magi. And Magi is a caste of a type of priest of Zoroastrianism, which was an ancient Persian religion that had this prophecy of a great king that would, it sounds kind of strange, his birth would be signaled by a star, and he'd be born of a virgin, crazy stuff. But this section of priests, they're basically astrologers on the lookout for this star that would announce this king that would bring peace to the world. And so the Magi, they're really just scientists in a way. And science led them to the presence of Christ. And so on this feast, we celebrate all the Magi that make it to the manger. And when I say all the Magi, there's more than just 3 Magi. Nowhere in the Bible does it say there's only 3 Magi. There's actually, we would say, billions. A Magi is somebody who follows their passion, regardless what it is. And that will lead them. They're seeking something greater, and that will lead them to the presence of Christ. Now, typically we have 3 Magi because there's 3 gifts. But, the ancient custom is this. I know we have nativity scenes in the foyer, but typically 1 Magi is young, 1 Magi is middle-aged, and 1 Magi is old, just to symbolize all types of people. And even 1 is usually from Africa, 1 is from Europe, 1 is from Asia, that God is calling all people in the world. Or as the first reading said, there is this darkness, this ignorance that covers the world. But in the darkness, the light of Christ will shine and lead you forward. And I saw this one nativity scene that I just loved. Don't quite remember everything, but one was the old man was dressed as a scientist, and he was offering books to the baby Jesus. Another one was an artist. The young one was an artist, and he was offering his artwork. And I forgot what the other one was, but I'm going to say, I don't know, who knows. But I love that whole tradition, that the Magi, you offer what you have. And a Magi, the thing that makes you a Magi is not really that you're an astronomer or a scientist, is that you seek something greater than yourself. It's calling you forward. The opposite of a Magi would be the priests in the temple. The priests in the temple, they know exactly where the Christ is going to be born. The Magi needed directions and got it from religion. But the priests, they're very comfortable in their temple. They don't want any changes in the world. They're going to stay exactly as they are. They have no passion for anything greater. And so they don't move from their very comfortable position. And there are people like that in the world. It doesn't matter whether they're religious or not religious. They're not Magi. I just got back from visiting my sister and my mother, and my nephew who's in the Navy came up, and I just love him. He's a great guy. And my mother pointed out something interesting. He really is a great guy, but he said, she says, I've never heard Billy talk trash about anyone. I guess it's a family trait. But I started to think about that, and yeah, that would be Billy. Billy is very positive, just incredibly enthusiastic. He doesn't really talk trash about people. And I was thinking about that, and of course, me. I thought, oh no, that's not true, because twice I've heard him in his lifetime talk bad about somebody. And he's always had the same criticism. where if he doesn't like somebody, he'll say, oh, he's boring. He said about one of his classmates who he saw, like Billy got, college, he's in the Navy, sees this guy he went to college with, and all the guy does all day long is smoke pot and play video games. And so Billy says, he's boring. And what he means by boring is really he's self-absorbed, that he has no passion towards anything. The second time I heard him say that is about an older man who does nothing with his life. Basically, he watches ESPN all day long and only thinks of himself. They're not moved by anything. That to me is the sin of the opposite of a magi, where you have no passion towards science or literature or art or even love. Nothing moves you from your very comfortable position. That is boring. And that's the opposite of a magi. A magi seeks something. It doesn't, and this is the odd part, for us, it doesn't have to be religion. It could be science, art, love. It will lead you to the presence of Christ. And so on the Feast of Epiphany, we play the role of the magi. We're the ones who we pray. I don't care what it is. Have passion about something. It will lead you closer to God. If you don't, you commit the sin of being a very boring person. And like the Magi, they all offer a different gift. And, we have to offer a gift to God. It literally says in the Bible, and I love this line, how dare anybody show up to the presence of God without a gift to offer? For the scientist who's interested in truth, what he offers is a truth he knows, and what he ends up is the source of all truth. For the artist who loves beauty or poetry or literature, he'll end up in the presence of the divine artist. For somebody like Dorothy Day who just loves, she'll end up at the very source of love. And what they give back is what they're searching for. But everybody offers a different gift to God. And this is what I really love about Epiphany. Not only do we play the Magi, but we believe everybody in the world can. Christ did not come for Christians. He came for everyone. And we believe Christ will send a star to everybody. Foreigners, no matter who they are, they have some star. All people, without even knowing it, they can be led to God if they follow a passion. Now, I spoke about my nephew Billy, who I do love, but Billy's a great guy, but he's not particularly religious. In fact, he only goes to church on Christmas and Easter. I know it's bizarre. I've never heard of such craziness. But he only goes to church on Christmas and Easter. But you know what, though? I'm not worried about it. Don't think it's good, but I'm not worried about it. Because Billy, he has a lot of passions for life. A lot. And I know when he falls in love, he'll go head over heels. That's just who he is. I know Billy will follow a star and will end up at the presence of Christ. For us who play Magi, we hope, at least I hope, that you truly are following some passion in your life. It will lead you to God. That will be the gift that you offer Christ. And the great hope is that really all people, in religion or out, can be Magi.